Do you feel worn down by chronic fatigue? For the last 5 years, I've worked with clients who started right where you are, feeling stuck and out of hope. So in this video, I'm going to show you how CFS can leave you drained, how to start breaking the hopelessness cycle even before symptoms have changed, and one small step that some of my clients have found helpful to tap back into their hidden strengths and start feeling hopeful again. But why does it feel like the harder we try, the more stuck we become? Well, after years of illness, countless doctors' visits, tests, tools, diets and protocols, all while juggling work, relationships and other responsibilities, I was completely exhausted. I tried everything I could think of to get better, but the harder I worked, the more I fixated, the worse I felt. It was like the more I pushed, the more stuck I became. For me, living with CFS really felt like being trapped underwater. At first, I thought I could hold my breath and make it through, but the longer I stayed down, the heavier and more desperate it got. I wanted to come up for air, but every time I tried, exhaustion pulled me back. I was stuck in this between place, too deep to breathe, too worn out to break the surface, and the harder I fought, the less energy I had to rise. From a nervous system perspective, when I was always fighting to get better, I felt stuck in survival mode. That was my experience. And I know for some people, it can intensify the experience of symptoms like fatigue, anxiety, or challenges with pain, digestion, or sleep. Over time, I just couldn't keep that up. It was exhausting. Eventually, I started to feel more sort of shut down, not relaxed, just drained, hopeless, and stuck in limbo. I hadn't given up, but it was like I was running on empty. And that was the cycle I got trapped in. Push harder, feeling exhausted, feeling hopeless again, then pushing harder again. And it wasn't just physical. The emotions piled up too, and they were so draining. Anger, sadness, grief, disappointment, overwhelm, frustration. And each one added another layer of weight, making it even harder to feel like I could swim to the surface. But recognizing this cycle was the first step for me in understanding what was happening and feeling a little less overwhelmed. I experienced this many times over the many years CFS was part of my journey. If you've been stuck in this exhausting loop, it's not your fault. It's a natural response to a relentless condition. So give yourself permission to acknowledge just how hard this has been and how much you've been carrying. It's lonely, and in my experience, progress wasn't about trying harder. It was about noticing and gently unlearning some of the patterns I'd developed over years of stress and survival. That's why it can feel so difficult. You're not just coping with symptoms, but also with the weight of habits and reactions that have built up over time. If it feels tough, that's because it is. But even spotting the cycle can be a meaningful step. But I know that might make it feel impossible to change this cycle. But what if I told you that you don't need to fight harder or do more? What if the real shift begins with something small and simple? Have you ever noticed that when your glasses fog up, your first instinct is to wipe harder and harder? But the more you rub, the worse it gets. Sometimes if you just pause and let them clear naturally, your vision comes back on its own. Trying to move forward with CFS can be like that. There are so many approaches, so many things you could be doing to help manage it. It's easy to feel like you're never doing enough. It's that constant urge to search, to try, to do more. And it's not your fault. In my experience, it's just your mind's way of trying to keep you safe. So when your body feels under threat, your mind is always scanning for the next thing to try. But here's the thing, when you stop fighting, when you pause the endless searching, let go of the pressure to do everything perfectly and allow yourself to take a break, some people notice a bit more space or a sense of relief. Even a small pause can sometimes make a meaningful difference in how you feel in yourself. Giving yourself permission to experiment with pausing, the doing and the forcing and the trying can really be a big step. It's a pattern that can keep us stuck. But pausing even for a moment can feel strange or like you're not doing enough. But it might just be that this gentle pause is just a helpful way to create more space for yourself. So today, pick one thing you usually try to fix or do more for and intentionally don't do it. I'm not talking about things you've been given by your doctor or practitioner, but the things you do off your own steam. Maybe pause your symptom research for an hour or let go of one item on your should-do list and just notice the space that creates. But sometimes it's not just your body that needs a break. Your mind can get tangled up too, especially when you're stuck in solution mode, always searching for the next fix. We spend so much time thinking about getting better and always in that mode and always searching. And there are so many answers. Which one is the right one? Over time, it can become a habit, and neuroscience shows that ongoing stress and pressure can affect how our brains process decisions, especially when we're anxious or overwhelmed. So if you've read about the brain before, you might recognize these ideas. If not, don't worry, I'm going to make this really simple. So this glass of water represents rational thoughts. When you're using your prefrontal cortex, when you're calm and balanced, and you can make thoughtful, considered decisions. But when you're stuck in solution mode, feeling stressed, anxious, and pressured, the alarm part of your brain, the limbic system, particularly the amygdala, well, that gets involved. And when it does, your thinking becomes clouded. What was once clear turns murky, and instead of balanced decisions, you end up choosing based on safety and avoidance. And that's exactly what happened to me during my CFS journey. Some of my worst decisions came out of those frantic moments. It felt unbearable to sit with uncertainty. So I'd make hasty choices just to escape that discomfort without really considering if they were right for me. It was only when I realized I could actually take my time. After all, I'd been sick for so long, what difference would a day or a week make? It was then that things started to shift. So when I let things sit, stepped out the endless thinking loops and did something to calm myself down, I finally started to make choices that felt more right for me. If you want to try this for yourself, just for today, I wonder if it's okay for you not to have all the answers, and try being okay with the discomfort that comes with not knowing. What if you gave yourself a little slack and took a holiday from solving? Watched a movie, sit in the sun, or just let things be for a while. Sometimes the best way to start untangling is simply to stop pulling and just to see what happens. But I know pausing the urge to push is one thing when you're completely worn down. How do you find that second wind to keep moving forward? Well, it's more than just fatigue. Sometimes it can feel like your very essence has been knocked out of you. This process chips away at your self-confidence, self-esteem, and sense of control. You stop trusting yourself because the fatigue feels so relentless and unpredictable. But here's the truth. You've already overcome so many challenges in your life. The grit that's kept you going, the resilience that brought you to this point so far, that's your strength. Those qualities never really disappear. They just get buried under the weight of chronic illness. So now is the time to remember them and gently rebuild your self-belief. And here's a simple reflection I often suggest to people I support. Think back. What have you accomplished in the past, even the small things? What do your friends and family say are your best traits? Maybe you're a great listener, or you kept going after a setback, or you managed a tough situation with courage. These are all signs of your inner strengths. All you need is a piece of paper and a few minutes to reflect on your journey. And if you're thinking, but how can I tap into those strengths when I barely feel like myself? Watch this next video. I'll show you how to start feeling more like you, even before your symptoms have gone. See you there.